All right, welcome back to another episode of Together is Better. My name is Jeff Clark. I'm your host. I'm the CEO of Neator, and we're sitting here on a very beautiful morning in Austin, Texas for the Transformation Excellence Summit. And I'm sitting here with two outstanding gentlemen, with Steve Shepard, who's the America's Chief Revenue Officer, and Tyson Verstraete, who is the RVP for the Midwest and West. Thank you guys for your time this morning.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
All right, so we're on day 3. It's been super exciting, in my opinion. A lot of innovations, a lot of good energy. I think you're seeing a lot of different partners bringing a different perspective. And we had a really fun party last night as well. We were talking about that prior. I think this has been a great event. Any key takeaways for you guys on anything that you guys have noticed from the last couple of days? It has really been something that's been different than what you guys have done in the past.
Yeah, I'll start there. I think the exciting thing about this conference taking place right now is the energy our customers have.
Yeah.
This is the first year that we've combined Signavio, LeanIX, and WalkMe into one conference. And so what I'm finding super exciting is that the customers are embracing the BTM message, right? The Business Transformation Management Suite of Solutions. They're embracing this message, and they're the ones actually driving us forward. So when you see the keynotes and you see folks like Reuven Murado discuss the roadmap, it's all driven by the interactions that we have with our customers.
I noticed that too. Like, it seems like the combination of all three of those, everybody said, okay, that makes a ton of sense, right? There's more of an end-to-end message there. And you saw that too in some of the product discussions yesterday, where it's like, okay, we're listening, we're taking the feedback that you're offering to us, and we're driving all these innovations, and we're pulling these things together into this unified tool set. Did you kind of get the same takeaway as well?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is amazing about the stage that we're in is that every year the show gets bigger, more comprehensive, because our customers are scaling the maturity curve.
Yeah.
Right. So every year the customer stories that we hear, they're more comprehensive, they're wider. So that it has been really it's been fun to see the rising level of sophistication.
Yeah, I think the adoption from the customers too. I talked to several yesterday, and like this is the second time that I've been to one of the conferences. I went out to Phoenix about 3 years ago, and it's a marked difference, right? You can just tell from the clients that they're driving a lot of value. They see the future with it. It's very exciting. But look, we have a lot of people that tune into the show. For those that are unaware, what is BTM in general? Maybe one of you guys could take a stab at that, or both of you, because you probably have a different.
Yeah, we might have different response.
Yeah, go ahead.
But let me kick it off, because I think you need to take a step back.
Yeah.
Right? You're throwing out the term BTM.
Yeah.
Did you use that term 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
No, that's an SAP thing a lot of times, right?
So here's what I think is really neat about what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're creating a new software category, right? Gartner doesn't have a magic quadrant for BTM.
Right.
They have a magic quadrant for mining. Mining is a portion of what Signavio can do in process. So when you actually take a step back and say BTM is Business Transformation Management, what's included in that? Right. It's Signavio, acquired in 2021. It's LeanIX, acquired by SAP in 2023. And it's WalkMe, acquired by SAP in 2024.
Yeah.
Right. And you combine those three pieces of software, and you have people, you have data, you have applications, and you have processes. Nobody else is doing that in the marketplace. So yes, while BTM may be an SAP kind of driven acronym, it's a brand new category for software, and that's what's exciting to us.
I think it's if you try to compartmentalize that, I think that's where you don't drive enough value for clients. It's the combination approach of all three of those together that is really unique. Yeah. I agree with you. Thank you. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's really well timed for our time, because like when you talk to people 15 years ago, 20 years ago, an IT department would be doing 2 or 3 major projects in a year. And now they talk about, we're doing 15, we're doing 20, 25 projects in a year. So the number of projects, the number of transformations that are happening has really accelerated, and will only accelerate more, obviously. And so one of the things that SAP talks a lot about is that like transformation is a capability that an organization needs to develop, a muscle it needs to build. And we have built this suite of products in this category that we're creating around business transformation. So it's really exciting.
If you think about kind of the evolution of that, everybody's gone through some levels of transformation today. How do the tools that you guys provide accelerate that transformation? What insights are they driving? Can you give me a couple of examples that have resonated with your clients?
Yeah. Okay. So here's something that's very interesting. So, for example, when you go into a customer and you're thinking about a project, one of the first things that you will ask a customer is you will say, "Hey, do you have any process documentation?" Right? And the answer is invariably they certainly don't have the documentation, the understanding of their as-is process that they would like to have.
Right.
Varying levels, but from we have none of that, and all the people who built the systems are gone, and we don't understand it. To we have some level, and every customer, if you ask them, well, would you like to have that? Would you like to have more? Well, every customer is gonna be like, yeah, absolutely, I would. But on the other hand, like I'm not able or willing to stop the business to go and embark on this and just to get this documentation, that sort of stuff. So if we can bring tools that can rapidly compress and accelerate that type of process and deliver really rapid insights into the project, then customers, customers are like, yeah, absolutely, we want to have that. We want to understand where we are to make better decisions about where we want to go. So for example, that's an impact that's happening.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would say to build on that. I mean, you're ultimately business folks, IT folks are tasked with executing a strategy that's being pushed down from C-levels at organizations, right? And so our solutions are that connective tissue that are allowing these companies to say, hey, here's the strategy. How am I going to make data-driven decisions to then kind of execute on that strategy? And that's what we see.
We were talking about that right before we started filming here, and we see the same thing as consultancy on our side, which is, okay, I go through a discovery process with the client. I'm getting all of this great qualitative information. What's the data-driven quant of that, and how do you marry these two things together? That's what's really been exciting for us as a consulting partner, which is try to marry those two things together, because a lot of times it's a miss. Right? You don't necessarily, what you perceive to be the right challenge to go after first or second or third, perhaps isn't, or it's not the highest return item that you could select. So, we see the opportunity on our end to take that suite of tools and provide much deeper insights. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, across most of SAP suite, deploy a better product, right? That's really going to get optimized, that's going to get used and drive more value for the clients. Just in terms of, kind of the future for this brand new category. What are you most excited about that you guys talked about the last couple of days? Any specific innovations that, really stand out in your mind as, hey, this is going to be a game changer for us?
Well, I think, if we didn't mention AI, we'd be kicked out of the room, right? I mean, it's being thrown around, but when you talk about processes and applications and people, right? We're doing this all very intentionally with the understanding that AI is going to create some intelligent innovations. Some, Tyson talked about the compression of time. Time is what's most critical here. Yeah. So the AI piece is what's going to really create those intelligent enterprises, where a lot of things that people are collecting and doing now with our solutions in an automated way will then be AI enabled, which would even compress that even more. And I think that's what, you asked that first question about the excitement here. That's what my customers are coming to me and talking about today.
Yeah. Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah, I think you captured it.
The AI topic is it's everywhere. It's on every show that I've had with this podcast. You get a variety of different opinions. I think what we've seen today is really, how do you as an individual leverage AI to more effectively do your job? Some of the things that I saw in some of the demos was really that, right? You're using Joule. It's a co-pilot, right? You're co-leading some of these activities. You're taking some of the tasks away. And I see more of that advancing over the next couple of years. So I think the AI strategy for SAP is very comprehensive, but I still feel like we're in very early innings with AI. Would you guys agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So today, every one of our products have now shipped AI features, right? But in the software adoption life cycle, Obviously, customers are now being exposed to those and beginning to use them. But what I think is exciting is just the responses and how customers are telling us how they would see using that. And I'll give you an example. So we had a customer that came to us and they said, "Hey, we've got 2,000, 2,500 process documents, and these documents describe processes, relatively regulated processes, and we need to turn those documents into process diagrams so we can really unleash the power of them." And they said, we asked our team how long it would take to go through these 2,500 documents and build this. And the response was, that could take the team, months, if not, potentially up to a year to do, right? But we had been into that customer presenting on our text to process feature, which basically you ingest a text document and it creates a process diagram for you, right? So then we can begin to say, okay, what the customer had identified as potentially a year-long project, can we do this in 10% of the time? So a 90% reduction in time.
Speed of value.
Yeah. So that's what's really exciting. And I think as you look way forward, I think that some things are going to come out that we don't know about.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. I watch a lot of the TED Talks. I watch Eric Schmid, right? There's some brilliant people out there that are saying, okay, look, if you look at follow Moore's law and you look at the pace of these changes, it's going to be super fast. The question is, what can a customer consume and how do they really need to go deploy it? If you're looking across the spectrum, right, with this entire chain of tools that you have, what is a good starting point for a client, right? Because a lot of times when we go, introduce certain technologies, it's like, okay, where's a great place to start? As a procurement person, I'm a little bit biased that I think that's a great business process to have a discussion around, right? What this set of tools can actually provide. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that when you start to look at the entry points here, it can be varied.
Yeah.
Right. And so both consultants and our customers will come to us and kind of ask, what are the entry points? What's interesting, and I don't want to sound sarcastic here, but our answer is you just need to start. Right. Don't delay.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can look at a procure to pay process. You can look at an order to cash process. And what's really interesting, and Tyson and I were talking about this. In my first 6 months in role here 3 years ago, you would go talk to customers and you would suddenly realize by doing some data-driven insights to get started, like you said, we look at one process and we can look at some data and you realize that something must be so broken that they can't even pay, an invoice or receive a payment for something that was shipped 6 weeks ago, right? And not only does it happen in customer A, it's happening in customer B and C and D. It's pervasive across the landscape.
Yeah.
And so what we talk about is let's just find an area, let's do some data discovery, and that'll give us an absolute starting point that we can go and hop off on.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Any comments on that?
Yeah, well, I think it's a great question, and it's one that our customers often ask us about, because if we're talking to them about transformation, we're obviously not always talking to a customer before they start their transformation, right? So, like, we will often hear, "Man, I wish we had this 6 months ago, 1 year ago," and that sort of stuff. And our response is absolutely, Shep, what you had said is that the keys to get started, right? Like, late in this project is early in the next.
The quote that I like to use with my customers is, "Waiting is riskier than acting."
Great.
Right? You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start.
Yeah, and it's the same thing of, what does good look like? So if you guys remember Kevin Hester, customer officer Kevin was one of my mentors. I worked directly for him for a number of years. He always would say that to a customer. What does good look like, right? The enemy of good is perfection, right? It's going to slow you down, but it's getting started on that journey and getting started early. So I think timing matters. I think a lot of companies today are sensing they have to make these transformation changes in some capacity, and some are more hesitant. And I think at the process level, like we were talking about, it could be procurement, so source to pay, right? Great place to start.
Yeah.
It could be someplace else around finance, order to cash, but do something.
But yeah, I mean, I think the theme is that We got to get started. The great thing is that this product suite can add value at every stage. It has different roles that it plays.
Yep.
Right, like those early analytics on your as is system.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, and then you might be doing things like, okay, well, now we're going to imagine and design the new system. Okay, well, there's a different set of capabilities that you bring to that, and each step of the process would bring different capabilities. So just get started.
I love that because I heard this yesterday. It was okay. We're at the as is and then the to be. How do we model for that? And there's so many shifts and changes that are happening, like in our world in procurement and supply chain. And, you see obviously tariff impacts. There's a lot of different things that people are trying to model. They just can't do it. Same thing applies to the tech stack that they have, like all the applications that, they are kind of burdened with. It's like, okay, how do we simplify? And by the way, guys, the speaker yesterday that talked about simplification was just phenomenal.
Yes.
Like everybody was blown away by that. And I think that message resonated. Do you guys believe that, this tool chain does present the opportunity for customers to continue to drive simplicity? And I think for an AI-centric world, you absolutely have to have that simplification.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Right. And you talk about the simplify kind of keynote there.
Yeah.
Marry that up with what Reuven was talking about in his keynote around the DNA of having continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about that we used to come in here, and when Signavio was first acquired and LeanIX, et cetera, we would talk about projects. And Tyson kind of alluded to this earlier. These projects become programs. And so we talk more about programs, and simplification is actually at the kind of core base of the DNA of when you're going to be a company that has continuous improvement processes, continuous improvement programs. It's all about simplification.
Yes. I remember, so Coca-Cola used to be a customer of mine, and I remember sitting in a presentation with their CTO, and he looked at the thousands of applications that they were supporting on a global basis. It was unbelievable. But then you saw this progression, and it kind of had this balloon that they started compressing, and over time it was going to get down to just this smaller number of core applications that they knew were mission critical, and then everything else was just going to get retired and retired pretty quickly. And I love that message because you can't make those decisions unless you're driving insights. The intelligence that you need to kind of forecast out, okay, this is where the data is going to reside, and it's going to reside in this application. To me, that is the linkage that's been missing for a long time. So you guys all have different journeys, right, to get into this. So what was your background, and how did you kind of end up in the role that you're in today? Because you just mentioned, 6 months ago, right? Maybe walk us through that.
It's interesting because you think back to the timeline I mentioned earlier of Signavio being acquired in 2021.
Yeah.
At the time, I was in the Midwest in Chicago. My career here at SAP has spanned about 18 years, almost 19 years of sales and sales management roles.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically being in a quarterly business review in Chicago with about 30 leaders in the Midwest. And a guy named Bo Zaremski walked into the room to give his presentation on this new business process management solution set from Signavio. And I was absolutely blown away by what he had to say, listening very intently. And what was very interesting, by the time he finished, and it was just a quick 10-minute overview of what it was doing, there were other leaders that I greatly respected in the Midwest that said,
Jump on.
You all need to listen to what Bo is talking about here.
Yeah.
This is the next best thing. And the best thing is that this was going to be applicable to current customers. This was going to be applicable to future customers. This is applicable to agnostic business. This is applicable to SAP customers doing transformations.
Yeah.
Right? And what was very interesting is about 2 to 3 weeks later, somebody called me up and said, hey, we've kind of integrated the Signavio business since the acquisition. Now it's time to put the sales team together, and would you have interest in running the sales team for North America? And what was really interesting is I absolutely jumped on it, and a few people within SAP had said, hey, you know what? That business may not be around a couple years or even 6 months, right? And I thought to myself, well, SAP's just acquired this company a year ago for $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
Right? And then within 6 months, I saw the power of Signavio and the processes and everything that we were doing. And I was introduced to the team at LeanIX. At the time, they were an endorsed application,
Right.
which meant that we were doing some joint go-to-market, but they were really independent. But we saw the connections there between architecture and IT, applications and processes. And, sure enough, 2 years later, we acquired LeanIX for another $1.2 billion, right? And so then you start to see the vision that Christian Klein and the board had regarding the success of our customers. And the success of our customers doesn't come without making sure processes, making sure applications, and then, lo and behold, a year and a half later, WalkMe hits the people.
Yeah.
Right? So you talk about how you got there. For me, it was a little bit of just by luck. I heard Bo talk about this, and now it becomes one of these, what a great set of solutions, and it becomes really the anchor for SAP down the road.
Yeah, and look, as a former career journeyman, right, for SAP, sometimes you just want to be in the right place. And you're right. Look, when the board makes that size of an investment, they're going to figure out a way to make it work. And I think, again, just the combination of all those, to see that as a vision of we got to marry, the people, the process, the technologies, all these things together really creates a lot of excitement. So I think it's a great position to be in right now.
And Tyson was smarter than me, right? He was the one he came in earlier and knew what it was.
Right.
Yeah, so I've been at SAP for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I had been exposed to some of our early capabilities. So this was before we had any of this type of capability. And so the moment that the board created this back then, it was more kind of process centric line of business or area of focus. Yeah, I really jumped on it. It was something that I was really attracted to, like the space.
Right.
Right. And I had been looking for, like I want to find a space that I'm really passionate about, and I want to work in that space. And so I did join prior to our Signavio acquisition, and then have obviously grown with the business. But what I would say is it has been really fascinating to see and to live and be part of what was a really interesting strategic decision made by Christian and the board, Reuven, around, we're going to create this category, and then to see them go out and acquire these three standalone industry-leading companies in their own space, but put them all together and really pursue that old adage of the 1 + 1 = 3, right? So it has been fascinating, almost like a business school experience for us, I think.
I think the brilliance in it is, they saw what was going to be required to really drive a comprehensive value proposition that was going to accelerate all of the other large transformation decisions that customers have around ECC to S4 and et cetera. But, you're cobbling together three different businesses. How's that gone? Right. I mean, it's always a challenge when you have three different groups together. My perspective, especially here, is it's gone really well. But there's always challenges with that. It sounds like you guys have done a really good job of integrating all of the different people together and the messaging and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes from the top. Right?
Yeah,
Reuven Murado is a very strong leader. He's put a leadership team below him.
Yeah,
that's very, very strong. Whether it's on the P&E side for product and engineering, whether it's on the customer success side, whether it's on the sales side, right? And so all of that is translating down. And I think what's also interesting with it is we keep talking about transformation and SAP. What's also fantastic is that we're maintaining some agnostic areas there, right? Because you have Signavio and LeanIX and WalkMe that, quite frankly, can be very, very successful as standalone businesses going agnostic outside of SAP, right? And so therein lies actually a challenge at the higher level, because we still want to maintain that business of being agnostic, yet we want to make sure that we're really making sure that SAP customers are successful in their transformation journeys to the cloud.
Yeah, look, I think you can do both.
Yeah.
Obviously you've got you've got a lot of customers that are SAP customers, and look, that's certainly the strongest message. But every environment has got multiple applications, and I think you guys certainly apply outside of the SAP ecosystem, for customers in general. Helping you guys get through, where you guys need to be, are the customers, obviously, in their journey, but it's the partner community as well. Just curious, right? I saw a lot of great partners out there. Energy is palpable. What's your thought for what makes the best partners for you guys and what you guys are looking to achieve?
So I would before answering that, I'd take a step back and I'd say I think it's rather unique at SAP, this product set, because a lot of the other applications that we sell, that's the application that all the end users use, right? So if we're selling the success factors, well, we sell that, and then all the end users they end up using success factors, right? With business transformation, with process optimization, landscape optimization, the role of the partner, I think, is larger in our business, right? Like a lot of our customers will be like, well, we don't do some of those things that you're talking about. Our partner does those things.
Right.
So for us, I think that the partner community is even more important for us than it would be for a regular product, because your methodology and your use of the product in the projects and the implementations that you're doing, and the work that in the collaboration you're doing with your customer, it's central to that.
Yeah, and I would also add this, is that what we're also seeing is a really positive trend with the adoption of the solutions. Right?
Yeah.
The new business, SAP is obviously transformed into the cloud, right? And so simply landing a customer with a business case and installing the software and going live is no longer the end game, right? The end game is, actually, the beginning is go live, right? The end game is the adoption and the use and the finding value. And what the Signavio, LeanIX, WalkMe solutions are, I think, really unique at SAP is that we're seeing the add-on growth, right? The renewals and the upsells are really trending more so than a lot of other lines of businesses. And it's because the partners are helping us with that adoption.
Yeah, I could not agree more. A lot of people have this misconceived notion that the project is over at Hypercare. It's like, no. You have a subscription, right? And that customer wants to continuously adopt, and they want to see optimization. They want to stabilize. They want to find success. We're hyper-focused on the adoption side of that for all the reasons that you guys have outlined. And I think the perfect partner today, to your point as well, is how do you derive those insights really in a pre-sales environment, pre-deployment environment, and shape really the outcome much more precisely as you go through a deployment, and then that helps guide higher success on the back end of that on the adoption. So,
yeah, and I think one other point I would add to that is that our product, in the hands of great partners like yourself, when you use the product, what you uncover is you uncover a process and application opportunities to improve. And then the customer says, okay, well, that's great, but now you have a checklist as a partner of, okay, well, now we've identified these opportunities. Can we help you realize them? Right. So it can be, our product set can be that flywheel for the customer in terms of always improving, but also on the partner side, a flywheel of demand generation.
Yeah, we see a tremendous amount of excitement for how we can leverage it with our clients. Like, think about reinventing. That's what you guys are talking about as well. To me, the consulting industry has to transform too, right? The ways and the methodologies that partners have been going to market hasn't really changed in 20 or 30 years. It's time to reimagine that, in my opinion.
And you know what? I'll throw one more thing out there. As we look forward, right? So as companies begin to consider AI, it's very top of mind, right? Then you also get to this issue of where do I start, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that's so exciting about the space that we're in is in order to do AI, you need to do things like, okay, well, where should we target? Well, you use the type of insights that we drive to figure out where you have process problems, and then that drives where you should, right? Because I think we all went through the birth and the explosion of the RPA world, right? And that famous saying of, if you automate a bad process, you just get bad faster, or something to that effect, right? So with AI, process analytics, process mining, I think is really going to shine there. And then the next thing is okay, well, as you look to train that AI, you want to train the AI to run the process the right way, right? And so in order to do that, you've got to document what the process is. You've got to document what you want the process to be. So I think some of the tools that we bring to the table will also be, like, in addition to the AI features in our product, it's also going to be a foundation for making that transformation to AI.
I think that's been the missing part in my mind too, which is everybody's like, oh, AI, we're going to go jump all in on this. Okay, well, you've got unstructured data, you've got broken processes, you don't really even know what's broken where. And I think you nail it, right? Like, if you want to go deploy AI effectively to drive the highest outcome, well, then if you're not really aware of what your as-is state, then you're never going to figure out how do you get on the path to your 2B. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. I know that we have a very busy day, you guys in particular. A lot of excitement out here at the summit. Thank you guys for taking the time to tell us your story. We're very, very grateful. We're super excited about the potential that we have together and getting our partnership off the ground. So thank you guys very much, and good luck for the rest of the summit.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.